Hi everybody, this is Neil Bradshaw of UberPi, and I'm going to avoid the lengthy introductions, and we're going to move right into this, which is looking at the UberPiMini. This is the new system, the little bitty bubblegum sized computer that I've configured to do some things with. It's not quite as powerful as the UberPi system, but the UberPiMini is righteous in its own way. So I'm going to fire it up. We're going to go through it. We're going to look at some video games and look at Raspbian desktop, and we're going to end it with looking at Kodi. It's all bundled together. It's super slick, and there is no berry boot. There's none of that stuff. It is just straight RetroPie with the juice piped right into it. So with that, I'm going to get started and try and stay out of the way of this camera. And with that, we're off. As you can see, real quick, real fast, boom. Colored screen. You got one Raspberry, not the 4 like you normally do with Berry Boot. And then there's not going to be any boot menu. It's literally going to fly right into Raspbian, but it's not going to Raspbian. It's actually going to RetroPie, because RetroPie, Emulation Station, all that stuff is wrapped around Raspbian. It's basically a Raspbian based system. This is one of the introduction screens. There's multiple introduction screens, so you can just kind of you can be entertained by whatever I've added. It's not really PlayStation, but yeah, there's just all kinds of these fancy introduction screens that you can be entertained with, amused with, whatever. So now we're flying into Emulation Station. I already have a controller configured. If you want to look at one of my other videos, it shows how to do the controller configurations. But we're just going to do a fly through. We're not going to actually mess with configuring a whole lot, or anything at that matter. I just want to show you how this works. I literally got this thing working just a little while ago, and it is sweet. So you got all your video game systems, and you just use your controller. If you had a controller like this, you would just go over and over, and if this was like your B button, then you could use that to back out, and you could use this button right here, which is like your A button for me usually. That's what I usually configure it as, to go into and then go into. And you use your start button to go to the main menu, which would take you to do things like anything like configure your input, quit, UI settings, stuff like that. And you take that A button and you could restart Emulation Station, restart the system, shut down the system, or quit the Emulation Station. You got options, but you don't need to do any of this, and we're not going to do any of this right now. So I'm going to use the B button to back out. We're going to fly through this. So you got all these different systems. You don't have as many systems as you have on the UberPi system, because that one right there, the Neo Geo, is about the top dog when it comes to what this thing can do. When it comes to pure 32-bit video games and above, it doesn't handle it very well. You're dealing with a much smaller processor, much smaller amount of RAM, but you still get a lot of stuff. Like, I've managed to get over 900 games working on several platforms, and about the only ones I had to cut out was like Game Boy Advance and Sony PlayStation, because it's just too much. Nintendo 64 had to go as well, but as you can see, a system that claims to be whatever 24-bit, I think there was like a 32-bit and a 16-bit processor that was slapped together to make the Neo Geo, which they just kind of affectionately called it a 24-bit system. A system of this caliber, which probably should not be able to perform on such a small device, does. I removed all the scrape data because I found that the scrape data for the video games a lot of times was wrong. It was masking the real names and it made it look like I had duplicates of games. And so I just said, no, that's not going to happen. This is a much better setup. So we'll just fly into, Fatal Fury 3, why not? Because that's a pretty good game. So Neo Geo is going to pop up. Boom. And you don't have to watch all this stuff. You can just hit whatever the select button and that will start pumping fake quarters into your system. Which obviously, Captain Obvious, don't really stick a quarter in your Raspberry Pi 0W unless you just want to experience something really magical, because I don't know what's going to happen. But anyway, we'll just press start. And this thing's going to tell you how to play it. I'm not worried about it. You can look at it if you want. Let's just pick somebody. We'll pick this guy right here. And so, as you can tell, we'll just pick that gal again. Hopefully she doesn't say anything inappropriate. But we're going to just slide. Oh, who is this bimbo? That's nice. We're going to slide right in here and we're going to play a little bit. I'm going to try and play off to the side here so I'm not in your way. And it's rock and roll time. You've got full-blown Neo Geo. Full-blown. All the Neo Geo you want. But you get tired of this, hit select and start at the same time and you're out. And that's it. And there are systems after systems on here. The only one that proved to be even slightly problematic, believe it or not, was the old Super Nintendo. It was more problematic than the Neo Geo, but I got that under control. The configurations for the Super Nintendo and the Neo Geo are a little bit more manual. They don't feed directly off the emulation station, but they're going to be set up for a PS3 style controller. So you should be able to just go in there and rock and roll. And it should go, those games should go in the Super Nintendo without any glitches. The emulator that was installed by default liked to glitch a little bit, which is annoying. Most people wouldn't be bothered by it, but it bothered me. So I chose to switch over, and it's worked out really well. So you got your RetroPie menu, obviously, with all your stuff, audio settings, Bluetooth, and yeah, all this stuff. So you can go here and do whatever you want. One of the most important things is going to be your Wi-Fi. We'll wait to see what it does, but we should be able to get in here and connect to the Wi-Fi network. So you go ahead and do that. You'll need your little keyboard or your big keyboard or whatever to do this, obviously, and connect to the Wi-Fi network. Hit OK. My controller's waking up, and it's going to show you some networks. And then once you see these networks, you can go in, hit OK, and then enter in a password, and it will connect. I'm not going to do all that because there's a simple reason that I just don't want my password to be on the internet for my network. So you would just keep going forward, hitting OK. You know, this controller actually has an OK button. But if you don't have that on your keyboard, you can use like the enter button. Same thing. It's just a little bit more convenient on this. So I'm going to back out of here. We're going to go back into RetroPie. Everything's driven, like I said before, everything is driven out of RetroPie. And I'll show you what I mean. Because you don't just have RetroPie with this system, this setup. You have this little tab here called ports. That's not actually a video game tab. If you go into it, you get two options. You get the desktop and you get Kodi. The desktop is Raspbian, just like you would normally use, but you go through the ports tab to get to Raspbian. So I went ahead and hit that A button it's launching, when you see that little gray screen, you generally don't want to click on anything unless you want to start tweaking and configuring stuff, which I would not recommend unless you just want to do it. If you do want to do it, at least write down the way things were before you start doing it, because things can get really ugly really fast if you decide to screw some stuff up. So anyway, we're here. There's a web browser. We're in Raspbian, as you can see, and there's not a whole lot here. It's not like the UberPi system where you got like an office suite and all that other stuff. It pretty much was a bare bones install. Thankfully, it wasn't Raspbian like the version without the GUI. This is Raspbian with the GUI, so you've got full-blown action here. So we'll just go to the entire world's favorite website. Yeah, UberPiDisc.com. The thing dreams are made out of. There was a U-Origin error that was popping up. I removed that plugin because it was hindering the performance of the system, and it was literally just dragging this web browser down. So I took care of that. I wiped it out, and there it is. This is the old page. The new page will likely be updated today or tomorrow, depending on how fast I can pump videos out onto YouTube. But this is it. Full connectivity. And when you do your Wi-Fi configuration in RetroPie, it takes care of this Wi-Fi. It takes care of the Kodi Wi-Fi. So you only have to do it in one spot for this system. Like I said, a little less features, but way more convenient on this thing. So you just do your thing, fly through it, whatever. Whatever you want to do, whatever you want to add, you can add stuff to this. You'll be able to figure that out relatively easily. There's a lot of stuff on the internet on how to do stuff with Raspbian. I mean, there's even videos on how to add Netflix to it and stuff like that. Office suites, imaging programs, all that stuff. You can do all of that, but this comes with a bare bones install, so you just do with it what you want. You may not ever use the desktop, but it's there. So I'm going to go ahead and go to shutdown, which is not going to actually shut down. I just want to go to this one that says exit to command line. That's the one you want. You just kind of got to remember that, because it doesn't say exit to RetroPie or anything like that. It just says exit to command line. So we're blowing out, and we should be going back to the port screen. We're in the port screen. Now the other part of this that's important and that you're going to want to know about, I'm sure, because everybody loves it. I mean, not everybody that's used the UberPiMini, because obviously only a handful of people have even played with it. Only a handful of people have even played with it when I was doing beta models and stuff like that. But everybody that I sell UberPi systems loves this. Kodi. Bam. And this is Kodi Krypton 17.1. Stable, super stable. Completely awesome. Will blow your mind. You can do all kinds of stuff with it. Just try and keep your usage of it and the video games legal. Don't be doing stupid stuff. I put this on my website. You know, if you download like 35 movies, you stream 35 movies, or you do something else that's really dumb, like stream like 15 movies that are in theaters right now, you might get a nasty letter from your internet service provider if you weren't using a VPN. Even if you are using a VPN, you have to realize that you could be breaking the law by doing some stuff that you're not supposed to. And if you have the video games, you're really only legally supposed to play what you own. So it's important to understand that when you make your choices, because I can't make those choices for you. All I can do is provide you with this, and then you make the right choices or the wrong choices. It's up to you. I don't encourage you to make the wrong choices. I prefer you use this as a learning platform. The Raspberry Pi Zero W is a phenomenal piece of equipment for being the size of a stick of bubble gum. So you can do all kinds of stuff with it. And you're welcome to just pull my card, put another card in, play around. The UberPiMini has a dock on the card. It actually connects to the card, and it's got 4 USB ports on it. When I shut it off, I'll show it to you real quick before the end of the video, and you can see that there's all kinds of stuff you can connect. I mean, it's just like, I've made it so that even though it is still that small itty bitty card, I've turned it into like a Big Mac sandwich. So you can do all kinds of stuff without having to hook up a bunch of USB hubs and stuff and make it look all junky. I tried to minimize that. But here you go. This is the Beast. It works. The Beast is the build of builds as far as I'm concerned. So I put the Beast on here. It was a really hard toss-up between Hard Knocks by Spins and this. But I firmly believe that this build is just a scotch better. When you play videos on it, it will actually have up there, it'll have like play buttons and fast forward buttons and stuff like that, whereas Hard Knocks just has like a line at the bottom of the screen, and a lot of people really missed those buttons out of the LibreElect build, or not build, but the LibreElect program where I put all the Kodi add-ons in. So I elected to go with this build for this system because I could only choose one, because LibreElect is not compatible with the Raspberry Pi Zero W. That was a lot to talk about, and I'm sorry, but this is all here. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff here. It's all working and it's great. So you just do whatever you want with it. Just explore, play. You know, like Man's Area. You may not want to do that when Wife's around, but there's nothing super bad that I know about in here. I don't think you're going to get into any rated X stuff or anything like that. Yeah. So there's all kinds of stuff. There's all kinds of options with the Beast. So you're welcome to just go to town. But like I said, be legal and be legit. So I would normally just go ahead and go over here to where it says power and go to quit. It takes a little while for it to actually quit. It looks like it freezes. It doesn't. But I don't want to wait that long. So I'm going to do something that you should just kind of reserve, which is I'm just going to go ahead and shut it off at this point. I'm going to click the power switch so I can show you the UberPi Mini to the best of my ability. I just got to get a few things disconnected here. Stay with me. Stay with me. There it is, right there. That's the UberPi Mini. That's everything. Right there. This little dongle, this little USB adapter is for this right here. So that doesn't actually come with the system. That's gone. Bye-bye. What you get with this system, you get a cable that connects up here, and it's got a power switch, and it goes to the wall. So you can shut it on and off without having to just keep pulling it, which is really nice because the UberPi system, I'm trying to get that resolved. But you have to pull this and stuff, and it's really inconvenient. You don't want to wear out your USB ports and stuff like that. That's a USB power port. Over here, this is mini HDMI, and it goes to full HDMI. You don't have to use this adapter. You can actually get the mini HDMI that goes straight to the HDMI cable. That saves a little space. I'm planning on using that kind of a setup when I build the joystick setup. And this over here is a USB to a USB, I believe, mini, and then it goes to this Ethernet connection. And the reason I did that was two reasons. One, you do have ports, but I've taped them, I've covered them, because when you have this little board down here connecting to this board, you're going to run all your power through right here. You don't want to use this power switch here because it bypasses all of this, and you can't use any of these USB ports. You don't want to use that USB port that's meant to be for USB communications on the system, because you want everything to go through these 4 ports down here. I mean, it actually takes a little time and effort to build this thing. So you can plug in here, but you will lose all of this. And then you got to get a USB hub, and it's really a pain in the butt. So just don't do it. But yeah, you got your Raspberry Pi 0W right there with all of its stuff sandwiched together, 3 pins touching the board, and then you've got your other stuff, your 4 USB ports, and it's all sandwiched together in this little built unit that's like a really, really fat stick of gum, and it should do you good. And when you break it down, the entire unit is really just that. That's it. That's all the juice. Everything else is just hookups and accessories. And the reason I run off of Ethernet, which I will include when I mail it, is that if you look at the UberPiMini, the Raspberry Pi 0W board, it's real hard to see. I'll see if I can show it. I'm going to get real close, and hopefully it'll actually look good on the video. But you've got this little triangle gap, and in that triangle gap there's a wire that's feeding back. And that wire that feeds back to the equipment on the board, the chips and stuff that take care of the Wi-Fi. Well, the Wi-Fi is not super strong on this. The only way to make it really stronger is where it says USB, there's actually a resistor, and you have to desolder the resistor, twist the resistor around this way, solder on a coaxial connection, and then put an external Wi-Fi antenna. That also causes it to lose its rating. I forget what kind of rating it's called, FCC rating. And so I might do that in the future to just boost it to make it Wi-Fi more usable. But for now, if you're just playing video games, you don't really need this or whatever. But if you're going to actually get on the internet with your desktop, or you're going to use Kodi, I would really strongly recommend you go this route right here with the Ethernet cable, because it is so much faster. And I even say that on the UberPi system as well. Use the Ethernet cable if you got it. You won't have stuff drop out like you normally would, because some of this stuff's pretty intense, and it's not the computer's fault that it can't get everything. Sometimes people's networks are just not that great. And so it's best to just hard pipe stuff if you can. With this, it's absolutely better if you can hard pipe it. So with that, dun, 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 the UberPiMini, ready to rock and roll. Just got to build a bunch of them, sell them. $70, believe. And the only reason it's $70 is because even though the Raspberry Pi 0W is $10 for the first one, $15 for the next 3 at Micro Center, this little board here is like $20-something, and this little connection and this little connection costs money. And so when you stack it all together, it comes out to it still flies under the price of the UberPi system. But getting all that together for you, rather than you having to go buy a bunch of stuff that doesn't even freaking work, that costs money to just order all this stuff and, you know, milk my Amazon Prime membership to the brink. So, yeah, I'm going to price this at $70, and I'm going to price the UberPi system at $90. And that has to do with that, increasing card cost on both units. Seems like it's hard to get cards for cheap that aren't junk. I don't want to sell you guys junk. And that's it. That's all I got. So thanks for watching, and I hope you got something out of this. I hope maybe if you're not looking to spend $90, you're looking to spend $70, or you want some kind of neat little hack job like this that is really interesting and has a lot of potential. Just pull the card and right there, and put new cards in and do whatever you want with it. You know, you can pull the card and do 3D printing. You can do 1 laptop per child, stuff like that. You can put Berry Boot on this and do some stuff like that, but there's not a whole lot available as far as Berry Boot goes with Squash FS. So, and Raspbian tends to perform kind of poorly under Berry Boot. So this setup keeps things going fast. But you can always pull that card and play with it and do whatever you want, because this is yours once you get it. It's yours, not mine. And it's yours just do whatever you want with. I don't care. You can just buy 20 cards, have 20 dreams. You can feed it to your dog. I don't care. Whatever. But I hope you don't. I hope you get some good use out of it. Thanks for watching, and have a good day. Go buy your dreams.